Hello everyone. In this session, we'll be looking at the critical success factors in ICT adoption, whereby we'll be looking at the key issues that helps success in ICT adoption for anything within an organization or for an individual or for the country at large. So what are the critical success factors in ICT adoption? So the critical success factors in ICT adoption refers to the key elements that must be in place for an organization, institution, country, or personal successful implementation and benefit from ICT initiatives. So we have seen that the country or organizations have different initiatives of bringing in ICT in their different aspects. And we've seen that in some cases it works, but in some cases it doesn't work. So in this case, we're going to be looking at the critical success factors, meaning that we're looking at the key items that make sure or make the use of ICT successful in different contexts, like for the country at large, but also for organizations. The first one is strong leadership and vision. So generally, whenever you talk of ICT adoption, let's say in an organization or in a country, it will always depend on the strong vision of the leader. So once you have a leader who is visionary about ICT, who likes to use ICT, then it becomes easy for the whole country or the whole organization to adapt the same. So with strong leadership, it looks at clear strategic direction. Like once you have strategies in place that are pushing you towards the use of ICT, but also top management or government leaders support. So if the country leaders or the organization leaders have really a support in towards the use of ICT, then that makes it successful. Then championing or leaders who drive change and motivate others to adopt ICT. So once you also have the leaders themselves that are championing the use of ICT, then it becomes easy for everyone to adopt. So why it matters? Without leadership support, ICT adoption often lacks purpose, priority, and resources. And this is because the leader is the one who is setting the strategic direction. So once they set up the strategic direction, then, and if they see ICT as an enabler for them, then that becomes easy to implement. But also, once the leader has it in mind, it becomes easy to prioritize and hence allocate resources. As we know, ICT aspects, ICT devices and resources are usually expensive. So it really needs a dedicated leader to allocate budgets and make sure that everything works well. The second one is adequate infrastructure, whereby by having a reliable internet connectivity, electricity, hardware, software, the general infrastructure, once it is in place, then success will happen. Scalable and secure ICT systems to support current and future needs. So this is where whatever is in place can also support expansion, but also can support new technologies that are coming in. Why it matters? So infrastructure is the foundation. So poor or missing infrastructure undermines the entire ICT adoption process. So once you don't have a good infrastructure, then it will be very difficult to adopt ICT. The third one is digital literacy and training. I have spoken about it in the previous session, where we have ongoing training at different levels. I usually say, for instance, in Tanzania, it's when we have all the generations of computer. We have those who don't know how to switch on the computer. We have those who know how to switch on, but they don't know how to do anything else. And then we have those 5G who are at the higher hand using technology in everything that they do. So digital literacy and training ongoing is important to build capacity. And that is why we're having this session, but that is why we do many other sessions. but also addressing resistance to change by demonstrating the benefits of ICT. So showing people how beneficial ICT is, and making sure that we encourage them to change for those who are not tech savvy anymore yet. So we make sure they change and they adopt the use of ICT. Why is it important? If users don't understand or trust technology, adoption fails. So it means we need to make sure that people understand and trust ICT for them to be able to adopt. The fourth one is stakeholders' involvement and engagement. So for successful implementation and use of ICT, we need everyone to be involved. So involving users, managers, technical staff, and the community early in the planning and implementation phase. So for instance, in an organization, if you want now to start using ICT, it is important to bring everybody on board and making everyone be comfortable and understand the value that is brought in by ICT. Regular communication and feedback loop. So regular communication, but also I will add regular training, upskilling. So regularly training people how to use ICT, regularly communicating what is new and keeping everybody in the loop. So why it matters: ensures relevance, user ownership, and smooth adoption. So once people don't have that ownership, then they won't use it well. But once they have the ownership and they feel they're part and parcel of the decision, then it will make it easier for them to adopt. The fifth is clear policies and regulation framework, supportive ICT policies, data protection laws, cybersecurity, and standards. So having all these policies in place, for instance, at the country level, we already have the policies in place. For instance, we have the ICT policy that is in place, helping us to really know the do's and the don'ts when it comes to ICT. But also at organization level, every organization usually has ICT policies in place as well. And that policy helps in the adoption of ICT. Legal clarity around digital transactions, data sharing, and privacy is important. That is why we have policies and framework in place. Why it matters? Legal and policy frameworks give direction, trust, and protection to all stakeholders. So once we have these in place, then everybody knows their responsibility, but everybody also knows the do's and don'ts, and this leads to successful implementation. The sixth one is sustainable funding and resources. So sufficient financial investment in technology, maintenance, and support. So as I mentioned earlier, ICT equipments are usually very expensive, but also they really wear and tear, and also the technology shift happens very, very fast. So continuous financial investment is important in technology, but also maintenance and support. So long-term planning for sustainability beyond initial project funding. So like for instance, you have a project that has initially placed ICT, you need to have a sustainability plan just to make sure that these resources keep operating and they keep functioning well for you to reach the objective. So why it matters? ICT initiatives often fail when funding is short-term or irregular, because the funding is needed continuously. You're talking about repair and maintenance. Repair and maintenance is also always successful once you have the funding. So sustainable funding is one of the critical success factors in ICT adoption. The seventh one is user-centered design and usability. So once we are using ICT, we need to take into consideration the person who is going to be using it. So that is where user-centered design comes in, where it allows solutions to be developed in a way that the user wants it. So ICT solutions should be easy to use, accessible, and relevant to users' context. So if this is an organization, please bring in things that people are comfortable with. For instance, we know Sometimes people are using open source like Ubuntu, and then there are people who are using, like, for instance, Windows. They all have pros and cons, but with Ubuntu, unfortunately, somehow it has some difficulties to some extent. So when you're deciding which solutions to be used in organization, do not choose them based on your own desire, but choose them based on those who are going to use it. You might be very comfortable with Ubuntu, but other users in the organization are not comfortable. So you need to plan according to users, and that is what we call user-centered design and usability. So consider language, culture factors, and disabilities so as to be inclusive. Why it matters? Complicated or irrelevant tools are abandoned quickly. So if someone feels something is complicated, they always bring excuses. You might hear someone saying, this is not working, this doesn't do it well, this, that, this. But it is basically a feedback that they are not comfortable with the resources that are in front of them. And you need to put that into consideration. The eighth one is effective change management, where managing the transition from traditional method to digital systems. So sometimes users are not very comfortable just to be told what to do without being involved in the process. And so once you're digitizing or you are bringing in ICT solutions, maybe a new system, it is very important to involve the users and make them part and parcel of the process so that when it comes, it is easy for them to adapt and change. But otherwise, at some point, you'll get a lot of resistance, and people might not really adapt ICT because there was no effective change management process. So dealing with resistance and building a culture of innovation, why it matters? Change is often emotional and social, not just technical. And sometimes we look at things more technical. We forget that people have emotions and they have their own social bonds. So effective change management strategies need to be in place as you're shifting from traditional to ICT-based solution, or you're moving from one aspect of ICT to another, making sure that all the users are comfortable. The next one is monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring, evaluation, and feedback, where here we look at clear indicators to measure progress, effectiveness, and impact. So once we have the ICT in place, we need to conduct monitoring and evaluation and also get the feedback and be in a position to know that is it solving our problems or not, or what else is needed. Maybe people need more training, maybe the software is not working well, maybe the hardware is not well configured. So that is where we will know, and out of the feedback, we can always improve. Mechanisms for adjusting strategies based on real-time feedback. Why it matters? Continuous improvement helps fix problems early and increase effectiveness, just as I have explained. And the 10th one is partnership and collaboration, whereby in building a digital society or in ICT adoption, partnership and collaboration is very important. Collaboration with government, private sector, academia, NGOs, and communities. So just having those collaborations. Everybody has a role to play, where we see the government would give out the country policies, but will also give the strategic direction. And then we come, the private sector can be importing devices and selling. The academia will train ICT skills. The NGOs will be there to support the community. For instance, the example I gave in the previous session of what we do at Chanya Change together with Arusha Node Marie. We are both NGOs and we are there now to support the community. but also having different communities that are supporting technology-related aspects. For instance, here we can talk about the ICT Commission, which brings in a community of technical experts in the ICT discipline. But also sharing resources, knowledge, and innovations. So through partnership, we are also able to share resources, knowledge, and innovations. Why it matters? So no single entry can handle ICT infrastructure alone. Partnerships increase capacity and innovation, because you cannot work alone in silos, but as you work with other people, as you work with other organizations, as you work with experts, at the end of the day, together you are now building a strong ICT infrastructure for the organization or for the country at large. Thank you for listening.